Everyone assumes using AI under time pressure is actually what will save you the most. Deadlines close, you need something fast in your hands for you to answer in seconds. Today, the opposite side of that, because the rushed version of using AI is exactly where most of the mistakes from every episode so far actually happen. Not because the AI gets worse under pressure, but just because you do. Basic setup, I gave myself an artificial deadline. That means to get something usable out of AI the way it actually happens at work when something's due and there's no time to think it through properly. And I watch what I have actually did something compared to what I wasn't rushed. The output wasn't worse because the AI got dumber on a countdown. It was worse because of exactly which steps I skipped. And once you see the pattern, you recognize it from your own rush moments immediately. So, the simplest version first, under time pressure prompts get shortened. You type the fastest version of the ask instead of the complete one. Write me a summary instead of explaining what it's for, who's reading it, what actually matters in it. Less context in, less useful answer out, intuitive enough. If you have never rushed a prompt, you will never felt this already. Worth knowing on its own because it means the fastest way to type something isn't actually the fastest way to get something usable. A 30-second complete prompt usually beats a 5-second vague one, even when the 5-second one feels faster in the moment. And that's the obvious part. Here's what's actually doing the damage. Short prompts are the small problem. Here's the big one. Every technique from earlier episodes asking you to justify an answer, asking you to argue against itself, checking whether it's actually on ground in a specific topic, every one of those takes an extra little time. 30 seconds, a minute, sometimes less, and time precious is exactly the conditions where people skip every single one. Think about what's actually happens under a deadline. You don't ask it to argue against its own answer because that feels like an extra step you don't have the time for. You don't check whether it's actually solid in a specialized area because you need it 5 minutes ago. You take the first answer because the first answer exists and checking it actually doesn't feel like progress. Every safeguard that actually works turns into a luxury the second a clock starts ticking, which means the exact moment things go wrong most easily are the exact moments people are less likely to catch it. And this is turns into something real professional consequences. Picture the actual scenario. Something urgent lands. A client needs an answer today, a report needs to be due in an hour, someone in a meeting is waiting for a number right now. This is the exact situation where stakes are often highest, urgent requests tend to be urgent for a reason, and this is exactly the situation where every safeguard gets dropped. So you end up the worst combination possible. High stakes contact produced under exact coordinates where verifications get skipped, handed over the same confident tone as anything else AI produces. And remember, confident tone doesn't correlate with actual accuracy. Nobody gets sets out to skip the safety checks. It just happens quietly because agency beats discipline every time, unless the discipline was already built in before the agency ever showed up. So, what actually holds up when there's generally no time to spare? Here's the change. Here's what's changed for me. You can't build a good judgment in the middle of a crisis, so build it before the crisis happens. Concretely, a short fixed checklist ready in advance for anything urgent and consequential. Not something you invent under pressure, something you already decided on a calm day and just run without thinking. Same reason a pilot runs a checklist instead of improvising one mid-flight. Mine's short on purpose because under pressure anything longer just gets stripped anyway. Three things every time, no matter how rushed. Give it a contextual context, even in a rush form. One sentence on who this is for, what it's for. Ask it to flag anything it's unsure about directly in the same message. And before you send anything out the door, one fast cut check. Does this sound too clean for how messy the real situation actually is? And the third one catches more than it should. Real situations are usually a little messy, and an answer that's suspiciously likely is often a sign something got smoothed over that shouldn't have been. The whole checklist adds maybe 90 seconds, no time is you don't have. 90 seconds that it catches most of what unhurried progress would have got anyway. And like every other episode, there's a line where you need the 90 seconds. January, low stakes and trash an internal note. A quick draft nobody's relying on or a first pass you're revising anyway. Don't bother, just move past, fix it later if you need to. Where the 90-second checklist ends its keeping, it is anyway urgent and consequential at the same time, which is exactly the combination that shows up constantly at work and almost never gets treated with the seriousness it deserves, purely because urgency makes everything feel like an exception to a normal care. So the real lesson isn't slow down every time you use AI. Most of the time is speed is exactly the point, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's that urgency and importance aren't the same thing. And when they show up together, that's exactly when you need the checklist most. Not when you have the least excuse to use it. Build the habit on a calm day so that it's already there waiting on the day you don't have time to think. That's actually the last one in this run, at least on how these systems behave and where they trip people up. If there's a specific scenario from your work you want to break down from the same way, drop it down below and I will build the next one around it. See you the next one.